If you're a parent or a teacher or anyone that works with kids, you've heard this phrase before. If I have to ask you one more time, right? What's going to happen next? Don't let me count to 3. But what happens when you count to 3? So the point is the next time this happened regarding shipping or a non-response regarding safety, I was absolutely going to start sharing this story because I've given the board of directors every opportunity to face the fact that there's some problems here in communication and honesty. I've been yelled at so many times, it has become a blur. But that is bystander abuse, and that's verbal, mental assault, in my opinion, especially because I had to talk about the fact when I joined the board that I'm a victim of violence here. And I missed this entire transition from one property management company to another, so I just wanted to know what happened. And they explain it, not just current board members, but previous board members too. So I think being part of the board is making sure that the board runs smoothly and follows up and keeps track of everything going on with the property manager, who is in control of everything that happens here. Now, there's been a couple incidences where I've asked questions to ensure that the decisions made were the right ones based on truth, not what we're being told. So I've asked for documentation. It's gotten so bad that my doctor had to step in to start suggesting accommodations, by the way, that I've been asking for since the beginning. Since as an advocate, meaning somebody who speaks for others in certain environments like healthcare, like law, like mediation, it's all about making sure they have the facts so that they can own the decision that they're making. Anyway, the point is my doctor suggested to get this on paper. And so I did that and want to see if the property management office and the board of directors is going to take this seriously, since I've been yelled at so many times that I'm giving them full thank you, the biggest thank you ever, for forcing me to speak again after losing my voice, after being assaulted in the building, as well as outside the building. So I've had a lot of trauma, but that is not the story I'm telling today. I will be talking about the reasons why I joined the board, which had to do with shipping issues and theft. When I started hearing residents were thinking of moving out of this building in particular because of the shipping issues, because of the lack of response, and because of the attitude of some people, I have to validate that experience because, like I said, I've been yelled at so many times that I can't even function because, again, being a survivor of violence and being diagnosed with PTSD, as well as nerve radiculopathy and vertigo, concussion, speech disorder, etc., I'm not going to let a label like disability affect what I know is right, which is that the residents are the ones that can cause positive change in this environment. Because when the residents showed up and asked questions, all of a sudden the property management has to respond. I don't know if the board of directors can come together, because what I found in the first 6 months of being on the board is just how lackadaisical it was. I didn't know if they were unaware of some of the issues because they weren't attending the meetings, their attendance being super low, or if they truly were taking this position as they've stated because it's like wielding power, which I thought was a joke at the time, but now I'm not so sure. Anyway, let's focus on shipping and access to the building, the two issues that definitely prompted me to join the board in order to deal with it, because I decided I'm going to live here for a long time. I bought my home in 2009 from Halston Development, and the marketing was brilliant because they talked about communities of different socioeconomic status coming together and living in a community, calling it a community. And that's the word I've been using because that describes the philosophy of where you live. Now, after being assaulted, I did lose my voice completely. So if this is a problem for you, just remember, I am so grateful to get my voice back. And the board members are definitely one of the few people in the world who have heard my voice go from really not so good to what you hear today, which quite frankly is the best it's gonna be. Every day is a new day for me to say and absolutely speak for the resident, because I'm not okay with a disconnect that was found out by a resident. Finally, actions that were taken when the residents asked questions and showed up. And lastly, I've been told repeatedly that the environment of the previous property manager was heinous, and they were blaming the behaviors of the previous staff was the problem, and yet I've seen the paperwork that shows no disciplinary issues with the staff. I'm going to talk about my not-for-profit, which is created directly because of the board of directors that I'm currently presiding on, as well as the violence that happened in the building, in my home, as well as the violence that happened in my workplace and in the building that I reside in. So, lots of violence, but I'm pretty sure if I can restructure publicly, then those that did show me how abuse of power works can just do better. That's the question. Can't we do better? Especially because I do homeless advocacy with people in the park. So one thing that the board of directors forgets is you can't arrest people in the park. You got to give them social services. Aren't well funded and under-resourced and understaffed.
French they did them in an ice cream cone or a milkshake. So to replicate that experience for you, we have a hot potato leek soup with some super crunchy French fries at the very bottom of the glass.
Yes.
Vanilla ice cream reverse poached in liquid nitrogen, then poured in over the top.
Okay, ready?
Your spoon, and then count of 3, dip it straight to the bottom of the glass. 1, 2, 3.
It's frosty and fries.
What they need so that you can get those people out of the park, because you made it very clear in the first meeting that you're here to sell houses, that you're here to sell apartments. That's it. And quite frankly, in the February 3rd meeting in the closed session, which I can't talk about, but I'm also modeling the process to end PTSD by talking about it. That's what prompted me to go to my healthcare team and let them know I'm not going to jeopardize my recovery when individuals are telling me that my fear isn't from the people who have access to the building and not having records of hiring, when I don't know who these people are and there's no record of them, and there's no record of them being hired, and there's no record of them. Oh, see, this is what happens. It's on replay. I'm really trying to get this out in one sitting. It's just impossible. Let me just say that violence in the body stays in the body. And what makes a safe neighborhood is transparency and accountability and ownership of what happened, because I've been yelled at so many times. I literally hear their voices and I let them know the behavior is ridiculous and it needs to stop. Again, just show me the documentation for the stuff that I'm being told. That's it. And that seems to be the impasse. All right, this is kind of scary to post this, but I also feel it's necessary to do so because one of the biggest issues I'm having with my recovery behaviors that I really can't manage anymore. So to talk about it publicly, I do notice that people do behave differently when it's done publicly. And again, we can't have the conversation privately, clearly. We'll have to do it publicly. So I'm going to look at companies, how they manage individuals living with disability or violence and what they do, because again, I've asked for very simple accommodations that they could do. And to make a safe space, it's not the people in the park, it's actually the people who have access to the building, and the fact that we can't seem to figure out who's stealing packages, and yet we have cameras everywhere. And let's not even get into the contradictions that I keep hearing. All right, this is a first go, meaning I just got it out. Now the second go is how I'm going to explain and pick out the bits that are most important. Strange that it is, this is progress, and I've been documenting my recovery on social media for about 6 years, I'd say. And the point was to show my doctors what this concussion is like, but also the excitement and the happiness that comes with being able to share your story as a victim of violence. Because let's just say I've been threatened over and over in sharing from people that don't want me to talk about what happened, and they use stigma being, we're going to call you crazy, we're going to call you vindictive, angry. I have none of that stuff. That I don't want this to ever happen again, because if it happened to me in this environment, I'm pretty sure it's happening elsewhere as well. If you want to follow my story, here's your chance to, because I create multimedia stuff almost every day across 23 different platforms, because PTSD entered in shards or pieces, and it's going to exit the same way. And if anyone has a problem with what I'm doing on the board, just know that we got here for a reason. So you want to talk about how we got here? It's the non-response, it's the yelling, changing my narrative, which I've never talked about people in the park being the scary people. I'm not sure what you're trying to say there, but it's really uncomfortable when you have a speech disorder and you have tried very hard to give all y'all a heads up. This is what I'm going to do now because you're helping the direction of my advocacy now. So thank you. I do homeless advocacy and I work to change policies for those living with mental illness and disability because I was exposed to abuse of power in all these different areas, including education, healthcare, housing, and employment. I do know the goal is to end trauma and to find people that share my objective because I think together we can absolutely do it. Why not? I mean, hello, we have all the resources and we know that we don't like trauma. We know how we like to be treated. And I am done getting yelled at. Thank you.